Hi, and welcome to the BookishStitcher podcast. My name is Jeanette. You can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, and Goodreads as BookishStitcher, all one word. Now, I hope you have had a great week since I last podcasted. Now, some of you might be looking at the title for this episode and thinking one of two things. One, what does that mean? Or two, oh dear goodness, has that crazy girl gone and decided to learn another language? And the answer to the first one is what the episode title means is monogamous knitter in German. I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I don't speak German. But I wanted to say a big thank you. I put it on Instagram because I was getting different reads on Google about how to actually say it. So I asked on Instagram, and let's see if I can say Strickerin. She helped me tell me how to pronounce it, and she was tagged by Skinny Dipping Yarn. So thank you to you both for tagging her and for helping me to figure out how to say that so I could put it as the title of the episode. And you'll see why as I talk about my knitting and then about the book this week. But German is not one of the languages that I speak, although my dad said when I was little, my dad used to speak German to me when I was around 2 or 3, so he said that German was my second language that I knew, but it was just little things like he'd tell me to go get him a cup or to go bring him something, and I have long since forgotten, and I don't think he remembers much German anymore anyways. But speaking of languages, I haven't told you guys anything about this in a while, but I've actually been learning Japanese. And I've talked about wanting to learn this, and I think I talked about it several episodes ago. And Soba Jaime, I believe I'm saying that right, who is in our Ravelry group, wrote to me and said that she gives Japanese lessons if I'd like to take some. So I was really excited. So I've been taking those for a couple of weeks, and I practice on my own a little bit every day, and then once a week I Skype with her and we work on my pronunciation and learning new words, so it's been really, really fun. Just having some water today in a little matrushka cup. I like to put different fruits and stuff in my water. It's funny though, I've been learning the Japanese, and when you know more than one language, you'll find often that different words will intersect in different languages. Like, probably the language I know best is French and then Spanish, and they have a lot of words that are similar sounding or spellings, but then mean different things. And then I was learning my Japanese and was studying different sounds and things like that, and one of the sounds that they were doing was the sound of horse hooves clopping or galloping. And the sound that they call that in Japanese is paka paka. And it made me laugh, and I told my Japanese teacher this because paka paka is actually a Russian thing too as well. You would say, if you're saying a goodbye to a friend, something casual, you would say paka paka. If you're saying hello to a friend in Russian, you say privyet. If you're saying goodbye to a friend in Russian, you say paka paka. So it was funny to me that they intersect like that, or in Japanese, it's horse hooves clopping. In Russian, it's goodbye. And she got a little laugh out of that too, so it was really fun seeing how languages intersect. But enough about languages, because we know you guys are here for the knitting and the books. So let me show you what I finished this week. I finished a washcloth. Now, it may just look like any old washcloth, but this is actually a special washcloth because it was done continental. Yay! I don't know if you guys remember, but I talked about this on the podcast that I wanted to kind of work on switching over to continental to kind of improve speed and maybe longevity of the craft, because I know continental has less wrist movement, so they say it's better for you long term. And I had done a tiny, I wouldn't even call it a baby-sized washcloth before, and I felt like I was really slow, and I just couldn't do it right, so I kind of hadn't done anything else in a while. And Stitches 29 wrote on the Ravelry board saying, "How's Continental going?" So that was wonderful that she did that, because it gave me a push to pick it up again and try it again. And with something bigger, I thought I could maybe have more time to get into the groove. So I've been learning the continental style from a class on Craftsy. I think it's just called Continental Knitting. But the person who teaches it, I believe her name is Lori Rista1313, was telling me on Instagram that Lori used to own a yarn store up in Grand Rapids, because all the wonderful people apparently have lived in Grand Rapids. So it's fun. She's a great teacher, and I'm really enjoying the Craftsy class. So this is the washcloth. I knit this really, really fast. And I love these colors. The yarn I'm using used for this was Cotton Supreme. You kind of see it, it's shiny. And I love this colorway. It's mint flower. And so I'm just collecting up washcloths to give to friends for Christmas with little like care packages. So I start knitting them now. It's really, really soft, and I definitely have enough for another one because I have that much left in the skein. So I'm excited to knit continentally. I don't know. I wanted to ask you guys if you would know. I don't think I should switch over mid-project to continental because I am having issues with my gauge with the continental because I'm trying to tension it around my pinky and the yarn keeps slipping up off my pinky and I keep having to stop and push it back down to keep going. So maybe if any of you have an idea on how to help me with that, that would be wonderful. So I'm not going to switch over mid-project, but I am going to start the next project that I do doing continental. So I'm excited. That's my first finished object. The second one doesn't look finished, but I'm calling it finished for the podcast. These are my opal smile socks. And this is the yarn that just makes me so happy. Here's the first one done. And then the second one is completely done except for the bind off. And now some of you may be going, why didn't you bind off? It would have taken you 5 minutes. You could have done it and then podcast. And some of you may know exactly why I didn't bind off. And I'm not going to talk about it a ton because I'm the type of person that hearing the same thing over and over again kind of drives me a little bonkers. But I didn't bind off because starting Friday, May 22nd, there is a summer-long knitting challenge called Stash Dash, put on by the Knit Girls, who also do the retreat I go to during the summer. And it's just a personal challenge to kind of knit as much as you can through your stash. And you can find out more about that on Ravelry, or you can message me if you want to know more. I'm just not going to talk about it too much. So this is done for the podcast. These are my opal socks. And the bag that these were in was one of my Sew For You bags. And it has hot air balloons, because we all know I love hot air balloons. The next thing I worked on, it was very odd, because as the title of this episode suggests, monogamous knitter, I kind of did one thing at a time. On Sunday after I podcasted last, I got those socks almost done to the bind off. And then on Monday, the next clue came out. And this was a clue for the Susanna IC Spring Shawl Mystery Cowl. And I decided to try to just do the clue in one day and just work on this. And I did it. Well, I guess I only worked on it at night. I worked on the socks in the morning. I finished them off. But this is a spoiler for anyone doing the shawl. I'm doing this out of some Desert Vista Dye Works and one of her gradients. You can't see it because I balled it up, but under there is a really pretty blue. And I love that it's a gradient for showing off my progress, because last week, you guys probably saw I had finished the red, and this week I did all that brown that you see up top. So it's great because I don't need a progress keep or anything. You guys can just tell. And let me get this all situated. It's so pretty. I think my mom is going to love it. It's gorgeous, and I know I'll have to block it. I don't block a lot of things. I never ever block garter, but I will block this because it is a coarse lace, and to kind of open it up. I won't aggressively block it. I'm not an aggressive blocker. I like things to, I don't know, stay soft and cushy. But this is going to be a present for my mom when it's all done. And this is in my Freckled Whimsy bag. I really like it. I forgot to tell you guys, the other thing that I am wearing, this is old FO, but this is my Tara shawl by Jared Flood. And this is out of some Brooks Farm Solo Silk. This is a very old whip, and this was actually the first time I experienced as a knitter that feeling that you love the way the yarn feels so much, you don't want to knit on anything else. I didn't want the project to end because the yarn was so soft, but I just wanted to work on it. It's really, really pretty. If you can ever get your hands on some Brooks Farm Solo Silk, I think they mostly only do events, but their stuff is amazing. And the shawl is really, really pretty. Jared Flood, of course, does amazing designs. I'm really, really thirsty today. I don't know why. We're just out running around with errands and stuff, so that's probably why. The next thing, after I got that clue done for the shawl, and this is in a Stitch by Sasha bag. This is where the monogamous knitting came in. I worked on this from Tuesday morning till sometime Friday, I think Friday morning. And I got it almost done, but I paused right before the last repeat because I want to save it, of course, for Stash Dash, but also because if there's sometime next week when I'm having a rough day or something, I can pull this out and just knit on it because it brought me such joy and happiness to work on this project. The yarn is wonderful, it's gorgeous, and the pattern is so intuitive. I've heard people say that they hate doing the little loops, but I loved them. So I guess, everybody's different in what they like. This is my Miss Winkle shawl by Martina Ben. And it was gifted to me by the wonderful the Nightly Knitter. And it's really pretty. If you can see. I'll hold it up to the camera. It is out of some Marigold Jen, and there are the loops down there. And it's very, very long. I have 34 loops so far. And I am going to be able to get 35 out of the yarn. I weighed it and everything. So I love weighing stuff with my yarn. It's really fun to do all the calculations in my head of how many more repeats and stuff I can do. Last thing I worked on because, like I said, I realized that that was coming to an end, and so I paused and I said, you need to work on your sweater. So I did. I pulled out this sweater, and this is in one of my bags by Awesome Granny, and it's again hot air balloons because I love them. There are a couple of things: owls, hot air balloons, matrushka. So last week when I showed this to you guys, this is out of some Mustache Targi. Still have a huge ball left. It takes only 2 balls to do the sweater. Last week I had a little less than half of a sleeve done. Here is my little stitch marker I'm using. These were given to me by a really sweet Instagram friend, Crystal Bailey, the one I knit the mustache socks for. So I was there, and now I have the rest of the sleeve done. Yay! I'm really excited to have the sleeve done. I just have one more sleeve and then the collar, and then I am done with this sweater. I would like to have it done by the end of the month. But I don't know, because this sleeve took me almost a week and a half. I think that was just because I was working on other things, because I was just so in love with that Marigold Jen. And I have 2 more skeins of it, so I can work with that yarn for other projects. But that is a sleeve. And the body is done. I haven't picked up for the next sleeve yet. It's just a whole... That is all of my knitting. I do have spinning that I did, but I didn't bring it down because I haven't plied it yet. Stash dash, I'm saving my yardage for that. So let's do enabling and group news and everything like that. So I brought down, I haven't shown these in a while because I didn't want to say the same thing every week over and over again. But we have going on in the group right now our favorite color cal. And what that is you can knit anything in your favorite color, and there are 3 threads for that. And you can enter once in each thread a different item. So let's say you knit a hat, you could enter it for these, which is a notable gnome set. Let's say you knit a pair of socks, you could enter it for these, which is a gorgeous rologs. Aren't those so pretty? And let's say you knit a shawl, you could enter for these, which is some Woolly Wonka minis. So for that, you can do anything you want. It has to be at least like 100 yards, you know, not a tiny blanket square. So hats would work, mittens would work, socks, but make sure that you only enter once in each thread. So you can enter once for this, once for the others, and that it's a different item for each. If you accidentally put it differently, because I don't know how well I explained it in the threads, then don't worry about it. I've already figured out what I'm going to do, system for entering all of that. So enabling, I got my Gilmore Girls Yarn Club in. There's this, and it's Tell Me About It Stud, and you probably know the reference to that. It's Grease. I can't imagine, I mean, I guess I can imagine somebody not knowing Grease. Maybe if you're really, really young, you wouldn't know about that movie, but then you should go and watch it because it's a good one. But this is Asparagus Dyes. It's in her Josh Whedon worsted, and it's really pretty. They also had, the other choice for this month was Belle Watling from Gone with the Wind, the lady who runs the boudoir and is a friend of Rhett, and I love that color. I wish I could get one of each. Maybe for the rest of the club, should start getting one of each color because I loved the Belle Watling color so, so much. And then the last enabling I have is kind of a silly one because I had to get, right now in the group we're doing a Terry Pratchett read along, knit along, or crochet along. So any book, Terry Pratchett, you can either read now or that you have read, and then you knit something that reminds you of it. And so I had to get a prize for that, and I did, and I perused Etsy for a really long time because I wanted to find something unique and something that kind of went with Terry Pratchett theme. So my first Terry Pratchett book that I read for this read along was Weird Sisters. I'm currently reading Nation. I'll probably review Nation on the podcast when I finish it. But I wanted to get something that kind of reminded me of Weird Sisters, which is one of the Discworld ones about the witches. And so I got from Knitwit, Find Treasures from a Sassy Girl. This is her Victory sock. It's 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 420 yards. And this is Witch's Brew. So this is the color that you can win if you participate in the Terry Pratchett knit along, crochet along, read along. So there aren't very many entries in that right now, so you have a very good chance of winning if you finish. This goes to the end of the month, so you still have time to knit a hat or anything that you could knit quickly. And this is a read along that we're partnering up with Amy Loris of Knit Theory, and she has a wonderful prize in her group, which I'm going to enter for because I can enter for that one since it's not my group. But yeah, join us in the Terry Pratchett knit along, read along, go over and enter in the group, BookishStitcher podcast, all one word, and you could win this. I think it's really pretty. And since that skein could not travel alone, it would have been sad in that package all by itself, right? I told that to my husband as the reason why I got this other skein, and he just laughed at me, and he said, anyway, you have to feed your addiction, honey. So, I did talk myself down. I had 2 in the cart to go along with it. They were going to come as some triplets, but I only got 1. And so this is another skein of Knitted Wit. And this is her Victory DK. I was trying not to buy a whole bunch of fingering weight, but I think it's really pretty. I like it. And this is in the Fairy Garden. It has purples and pinks and all kinds of wonderful colors. I think it's really pretty. that is all of the enabling, I think. Yes. So definitely come over to the podcast group and join in on those and just come and hang out. We are a pretty chatty group, which I love. And that's just one of my favorite things about all the people in the podcast group community is we like to talk and get to know each other. One more thing I wanted to mention really quickly, and I almost just forgot. Life Full of Laughter, I believe. I believe that's it. She contacted me, and she has opened up a group on Facebook for sock yarn mini scraps. I'm going to find it right here really quick. It is the Sock Yarn Minis / Scraps Swapping. And you can go and put that into Facebook and look it up, and it's an entire group on Facebook dedicated to people who want to swap minis. I will probably join. I'm thinking about creating a separate Facebook persona for the podcast because my Facebook is family and then like local friends that I know in real life, friends that if I saw at the supermarket, we could talk about each other's kids and stuff like that. So I don't really use Facebook for the podcast. If you guys would like me to create a page or anything like that, I can. Just let me know. But in order to probably join this sock yarn mini scrap thing, I will be definitely creating a different Facebook thing so I can keep all that podcast versus family life separate. And with that, it's time for the book this week. And you're probably thinking, why is she getting out her phone? Where's the iPad? Where's the book? Well, for this book, I actually listened to it on my phone. It was one of my Audible books. And the reason why I did it on Audible was for a couple of reasons. I had heard about this book from another podcast called Books on the Nightstand. And that podcast was actually told to me from Saratoga Knitting. Thank you so much, Sarah. My Goodreads to read list, thanks you. So many wonderful books that I am adding to that from that podcast. She originally told me about it, and I was so glad I went and kind of subscribed to it. But I found out it's just 30 minutes a week or whenever they record. It's just 30 minutes, which is perfect for me because I have the most adorable, silly, and sweet toddler who is also a tornado of adventuresome messiness. And the only time I really get to myself when I don't have to be watching her like a hawk so that the house doesn't get painted with ketchup or she isn't hiding in a cupboard eating a stick of butter, which she has done. Things that you never realize your child will do. My daughter has done all of them. So the only time I really get to myself is in the morning when I have my coffee. I wake up early so I can get that time to myself before my kids wake up. And I listen to my podcast then. So I don't have hours and hours and I don't wake up at 4 a.m. to do stuff. So it's, I normally only have a little bit. And so this podcast, Books on a Nightstand, is perfect. And I can listen to it, or if I am going on a walk, I can listen to it because it's shorter. If it's longer, I sometimes will still listen to them, but I have to listen to them in several clumps over periods of time. And I heard about this book from Books on a Nightstand, like I was saying, and they had said to listen to it as an audiobook because the person who reviewed it said they had originally read it as a book, and it takes place in a foreign country, so there are a lot of foreign words. And they said that when they were reading it in the book, they kind of just skipped over all the foreign words. But then when they listened to the audiobook, it added a whole new dimension to it because they pronounced the words for you. This is why I had to ask about how to say that in German, because the book does not take place in Germany. Let me show you the book. I saved it on my phone to show you guys. I love Audible if you're ever wondering about it. I love it. But it is Hausfrau. And that's what the cover looks like. Very kind of pretty girly cover. And it is a novel by Jill Alexander Essbaum. And it's read by Mozan Marno. It's probably German. I'm saying it with a French or a Spanish, but it's probably German. But this is a very interesting book to me. Again, so you can see all that. Sorry, I can't zoom in on the author's name, but I'll say it again at the end. The whole premise behind this book is a woman who has married a Swiss man, and she's living with him in his home country. And it is definitely one of those books where the setting is a character, because how the people in the land around her act towards her has shaped her into who she is. And she's very depressed. She feels very isolated, and she feels like her life has no meaning or direction. She has kids and she lives there, but she doesn't know anybody. I wouldn't say she doesn't speak the language, although she says she doesn't. I would say she's tourist fluent, which is what I would call myself in most, where you could drop me down in the middle of the country and I could get my way around, but I can't converse on any subject under the sun, you know. I can get my way around and order food and hotels and stuff. So she's probably like that. She could order food, she could go to grocery stores and different things, but she didn't know enough to converse fluently with a native. And so what does she do that she's alone in this country and depressed? She starts to, I think we all have stuff that we maybe use as coping mechanisms. And her coping mechanism is adulterous relationships. So she just kind of uses that to fill the emptiness, I think. She also is doing counseling and taking German lessons so she can learn to speak to people, but that kind of just makes it even worse, because the people that she meets in her classes or meets at different places, she has relationships with them. And I think it's just that she is so depressed that she looks, and her husband isn't very affectionate. It's kind of, I guess, not Swiss nature to be very affectionate or lovey, and she's American coming from that culture, and so she just feels sad about it. And she's looking for love in all different kinds of places. And of course, that comes back to haunt her, as I think anybody who reads this, it was no mystery to me that this was all going to kind of go wrongly. It's not supposed to be a happy book. There are explicit scenes in it. To me, I'm very sensitive to that kind of stuff. If you've read Outlander or any romance novel, you will have no problem reading this, but I had to fast forward. I only read the first Outlander, but I had to fast forward through parts of it because I don't like reading about that kind of stuff. It feels like I'm peering into someone's secret life to me. But I just fast forward through about a minute, I think, of this audiobook. The rest of it was amazing. And it kind of reminds me of a modern day Madame Bovary, where if you've ever read Madame Bovary by Flaubert, you know that she looks for love in the wrong places and looks for fulfillment in things and men. And so it's kind of that book, and I was just waiting for the end. I knew what was going to happen. I won't give it away, but I knew how it was all going to go down, and it is sad. Different parts throughout the book are sad, and it's kind of just sad thinking about this woman who feels so alone and so isolated that she's resorting to very unhealthy stuff to fill herself up. But I enjoy these type of books. Madame Bovary is one of my favorite books ever, so it wasn't too depressing for me. Some books are very depressing to me, but this was okay. And I'll show it to you one more time. Hausfrau by Jill Alexander Essbaum. And I definitely recommend the audiobook. You could probably read it, but like I said, you wouldn't get the same hearing of all the words. There are tons of German and Schweizerdeutsch. I'm not saying it right. But words in the novel, and the narrator does a very good job of reading them, which I would not, because I don't speak either of those languages. That's everything I have for you guys this week. I hope you enjoyed the podcast episode and seeing all my things and learning a little bit of Russian language. But I hope you guys have a wonderful week and that you get to do all the things you love. Okay, пока-пока. Bye, guys.